Hi, this is Rachel, and you're at Design Resilience, the corner of the internet where we talk about building daily habits and practices to help you have the resilience you need, whether things are amazing, because that takes stamina, or things really hard, because you need the grit to be able to pull yourself through. And I am thrilled today to be joined by Sandra D. Brown, licensed clinical social worker and CEO of Self Care U Academy. Sharon is a self care advocate. She is a financial liberation educator, a transformational strategist, and podcast hostess. So I'm in good company, and so are you. But as I always say, the introductions that I read never do the person justice. So I'm going to stop talking and let Sharon tell us her story. So go ahead, Sharon. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah. Well, again, everyone, my name is Sharon D. Brown, the founder of Self Care U Academy. And pretty much when it comes to the Self Care U Academy, that was, I want to say, started by my own personal journey as well as by being in the mental health field. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, been, in the field for over 2 decades. And even though that has taught me a lot, but I think I learned probably more so on a personal basis because once I experienced my own stress, then I'm like, oh, okay, here. And so what I've done is that what I have learned from the mental health field and also from my personal life is created the Self Care U Academy. Because one of the things that I've seen when we're talking about resilience and burnout and stress is that we don't do enough things to sustain ourselves. And part of it is just kind of like the way systems are, the way the world is. So it's really about, being intentional and then incorporating habits every day, at least most days. And I'm going to leave it right there for now.
Amazing. Yes, I've been so many situations myself where I'm looking at a group of people or a friend that's going through something, and it seems super clear to me how to solve it. It's so easy. I can see it right away. And then my universe operates very quickly. So usually within a couple of weeks, I'm experiencing something that helps me go, oh, like you did,
Mhm.
where you're like, okay, so it's different when I'm in it.
Yes.
And I can imagine as someone who studied to become a clinical social worker, your heart is open, you desire to help people. Um, so talk us through that where it kind of flipped on you and now you're the one who's needing the coping skills that you've been trying to deliver to your clients so far. What was that like?
Yeah, for me, it started off with a breakup. It might have been some things that were before that, like with my parents, medical mayhems, medical complications. So there were some, I want to say, coping skills that were within that, but the breakup, what cracked everything open because literally I was crying for 40 days and 40 nights. And with that, by being a therapist, I don't know to say by being a therapist or was it intuitive. I'm gonna say it was a combination of both because it was so intense. And I'm like, talk therapy is not going to be the only thing that's going to get me through this. And so because of the pain that I felt and I was exercising and exercising wasn't decreasing my heart rate. So I enrolled in yoga.
Ah,
Yeah. And that literally had opened the door for me. And I do want to say, because I'm always the type of person, one, I love learning. And then two, I want to say at that point in my career, I was at a point too. It's like, I want to look at different things that can help people. So yoga was one of those things because from there, even though I did it initially for myself, and I'm like, oh, okay, this seems to be helping. And of course, it's a process as well. But also, along with yoga, I had ended up enrolling into yoga teaching training where I can understand the philosophies and everything with that. And one thing that I do want to say with this, I'm crying for 40 days and 40 nights. And one thing I like to tell people, especially when you're experiencing something and it feel very intense, like initially it may be the thing, meaning, when you're going through something, meaning that was the stimuli, that was the stressor, but it wasn't the reason that I was crying for 40 days and 40 nights. Probably the first week or so was because of the breakup, but because of how tense it was, because I'm even looking at myself like, what's up, girl?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I was
Yeah.
getting sick and tired of getting sick and tired. And so with that, one night, literally, I got sick and tired of crying so intensely in that I got onto the floor and I'm like, just let it stop. Just let it stop. And that's when I got deep within myself. I kind of call it that was a meditative state for me.
Yeah.
So with meditation and yoga, meditation is a part of yoga. A lot of times people think it's separate, but it's really a part of, you know? And so in that, I had to go several layers deep within myself to get connected to the root cause of why I was crying so intensely. And what came out of that meditative state was, oh, daddy issues.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's what came up for me, because I did grow up in a, single parent household, but, it's like if you live without, hey, I'm good, right?
Yeah.
I've gone on to go to undergrad and grad school, graduated and everything, and life really did seem good. But sometimes there can be some underlying things in which we're not aware of. So with that in dealing with that pain, it helped me to really see it more so from the perspectives of the clients that I have served.
Yes. Oh, so many things. Okay. So I have also gone on that journey of talk therapy's not it anymore. I participated with different therapists and sometimes even coaches, probably, gosh, 12 years. And I got to the point where I could logic my way, but I still felt unsafe. I
Mhm.
still felt panicky or just heavy. And I couldn't, I would go through all my processes, use all my tools, and I wasn't feeling better. And so that idea of, okay, it's in my body now. Like my brain, I've given it all of the pathways it needs to walk. Let's work on the body. And I love that you chose yoga, because it's gentle and present and all the things that make it difficult or what holds you in the space and time with yourself and learning to, be okay with your legs that aren't flexible and your hips that are tight and all of that. I'd love to know, as you went on that journey and you got to that place, like, this is enough. I have to just, what is going on? Did you meet versions of yourself? Did you, or because my experience has been some of those anchoring things that are so deep are actually with versions of me that were like younger.
Mhm.
So, like 5-year-old me, 8-year-old me, 13-year-old me. And I needed, in order to kind of unwind all that pain that I just was living with, like you just roll. You're like, I've achieved. I am doing it. I've gone to college. I am educated. I'm professional. I'm doing it. And I needed, so that version of me was okay, but it was the younger versions of me that were hurting still, and they were in my heart and in my body. Is that any part of your experience at all?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's the thing that I discovered because, like I said, what came up for me was the absence of my father, and through that, the little, again, not consciously knowing this, but
Mhm.
unconsciously, it revealed I was still waiting for him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Which
Yeah.
makes why a breakup of a romantic relationship would crush.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah, and I was like, and then the other thing too, what it made me realize is that, it's kinda like how you go about life.
Mhm.
And this is like professionally and personally too. Like I'm a type of person, like if someone says something, hey, I'm good, right? And I kind of call it, I can, once that realization came up that I was waiting for my father, subconsciously, then I can see other parts in my life that I had been waiting.
Oh.
You see what I'm saying? Because if
Yeah.
someone, I mean, I still think if somebody's saying, we're going to do this on this particular day, this is what we're going to do on that particular day, that I don't need a check up. I don't need to follow up,
Mhm.
But I know that sometimes everybody is made up different,
Sure.
or I can misinterpret something. It's like, oh, I was waiting, because sometimes I do. It's like, well, I was waiting on you. It's like, oh, you were waiting on me? You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
So,
yes.
again, the way that the meditative state helped me, it helped me to really sit down and to
Mhm.
really get in touch with myself, because I've always been, like, more of a giver, because in one sense, to be honest, I, on the conscious level, really didn't have a need for anything.
Right.
I was
Right.
good.
Yes. Yes.
You know? But
Mhm.
yeah, being able to, with yoga and meditation, had really allowed me to connect more with myself. And even now, I even still have to remind myself, okay, Sharon, sit down a little longer, go a little deeper. Because even though I can sit,
Mhm.
and this was it was a few years ago, but it was even a few years after, I say recovering, because I'm always learning. And so I did go through I forget the exact name of it, but that 12-week mindfulness training program. I can't remember the exact name. Um, but I did go through that. And when I went through it as a participant, in that particular setting, I realized, oh, like I love meditation. I love restorative yoga,
Mhm.
but I come to realize why. Because I'm thinking I'm relaxing. Sometimes I'm relaxing and sometimes I'm disassociating,
Oh, yeah.
And so
Yes.
that is what I learned in that 12-week training. I'm like, oh, so I'm not just
Yeah.
So again, it's another way where you can get to know yourself,
Yes.
because I wasn't, completely conscious of that,
Mhm.
So it's just another way to learn about yourself. And it's like, oh, okay. So even now I have to kind of make sure, am I relaxing, or at least, allow it to do the thing, but if
Mhm.
anything, to make sure I'm not, quote unquote, daydreaming or going off of disassociating.
Yes. Yes. I think that's so powerful because, they tell us, or we've been told that like the relationship with ourself is one that goes on our entire lifetime, and you should love yourself and you should get to know yourself. And I was not raised in an environment where that was natural. Like you giving to other people, relationships with other people, finding out about them, and for me sometimes dismissing myself,
Yeah.
like letting them be the personality in the room was so much easier. Um and at the end of a breakup, a lot of encouraging people will say, "We'll get to know yourself and like spend time with you and build that relationship." And to be quite honest, it never seemed super fun. Like, I was like, you know, but then when you step back and think about it, and you're giving yourself the things that you're looking for, that calm, that relax. Because I'm sure at the end of most relationships, it's very tense, it's very tumultuous. Every day you're walking on eggshells, and it's really hard until it finally breaks. And so giving yourself that relaxation and making time. And then when you would kind of run away or dissociate, like calling yourself back and be like, no, don't come back to me. That's really beautiful. And it is evident that that was a beneficial journey, because it birthed out of you the Self-Care You Academy. I mean, it helped you connect so well that you want to share it. So tell me about that transition from healing and learning and caring for yourself to then building it into something to educate other people.
Yeah. And so when it comes to building that, I want to say there's another level to it. So some of it kind of come from my parents with their medical issues and medical complications and challenges and mayhem in that. And like I said, that was like in between the breakup of the relationship. Like before the relationship, during the relationship, and after the relationship. So with that, with my parents, I may have, let's say, gone on walks, to kind of relieve stress, or talk to, family, friends, and things like that. And I would say by seeing them, and then, like looking at the world as well, it's like, okay, so what can we as individuals do so that we can be as healthy as possible? Kind of going back to, like, they had the resilience, because they come, both of them, they were born in the 1940s, I think, 45 and 47. And so they were born in that area. And so the work ethics and pushing through that was there. They never had. So they grew up in an era where it was acceptable to pretty much work through everything until you can't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So in seeing that, it's like, okay, what can we do as individuals so that we don't have to experience that? Because unfortunately, even though they grew up in that time frame, society still function in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Quote unquote hard, hustle and grind, different systems and everything. And this is where self-care has to be radical.
Right.
So based on that, that was something else that was added to it. It's like, yeah, we need to be able to sit down. We need to be able to take your break, take your vacations. Again, even in dealing with that, what can I do for myself? Because the other thing is too, with one medical mayhem that my mom had, and this was ages ago before her passing, in that I was working at a place. I had worked at that place for years. Then I got promoted to a supervisor position. 1 month, 1 month after I got promoted, my mom, she was going in, even though it was a major surgery, but she's supposed to have been in there for 5 days.
Wow.
She ended up between ICU, what is it? ICU, acute, inpatient. I didn't even know it was such a thing. I knew about subacute because I did internship regarding subacute. But like, you have inpatient medical hospitalization, but you have an acute a level up.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about that either.
Yeah, that's for individuals who need like a longer term of hospitalization because of their medical needs. So between ICU, acute, and then eventually rehab.
Right.
For 90 days.
Oh my goodness.
And in between that, she ended up, of course, somewhere between that, she had to be resuscitated. I'm not so concerned about resuscitation
Okay.
because it does its job. You know,
Yes.
it does its job. But she had to end up getting a trach and a feeding tube.
Oh,
Yeah. And again, this was a 90-day thing. And bless my dad, my stepdad, but anyway, just imagine of going through all of that and just getting promoted.
so much. So
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. So having to deal with that,
Right.
emotionally, and then coming, working in a place that's extremely busy and then 10 times busy as a supervisor.
Absolutely.
So at that particular time, I was already working because I'd already told myself, okay, with this position, I've got to make sure I work just for my mental. I did that. And then for the most part, I would say generally I was okay. But then several years later, because as time went by, both of my parents, they had different medical issues.
Yeah.
But this one particular time, I think it was after my stepdad had a heart attack,
Mm.
but there were times in which they both was in the hospital at the same time.
Oh, man.
And I know my mom was home and I would visit every other weekend. It was that my weekend. And this particular weekend, something was just off. I didn't know what it was, but it's something that's just about my energy. It was like I didn't feel good, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. Something was just off. Again, I was with them, I run errands, making sure they're okay. And then my brother came over and then I left. And then he was like, yeah, something's going on with mom. I'm like, huh? Like, I've been here all weekend.
Yeah.
But that particular time, in which they sleep a lot too. So it's kind of like, but anyway, she ended up having to go to the hospital. But before that particular weekend, remember I said that I wasn't feeling good. I had already been exposed to Reiki. So
Oh,
I pretty much had text one of my Reiki colleagues and said, hey, something's going on with me. Can you do, a Reiki session with me, when I get back to town? And they did. And so in saying that, sometimes energetically, we can absorb other people stuff because at that particular point, my mom, she did have to end up being admitted to the hospital.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
in hindsight, I believe that I was absorbing what was going on with her. Again, I couldn't pinpoint it because I was there and overtly, she didn't look like she was under duress or anything like that. But in saying that, how can we take care of that energetically? And the only
Mhm.
thing I can tell you, I'm glad that one, was exposed to Reiki to even know, because even though I love um, yoga and meditation, in this particular case, I don't think that it would have really helped.
Right.
And after that Reiki session,
Oh,
I walked out. I thought I had been on the beach for 2 weeks.
wow. Wow. Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. So it's saying that you've seen all of those things. And then mental health wise, being in the mental health for a while and seeing certain things regarding, because I specialize in crisis. So I'm like, why? You see different people, like sometimes I say, what is the difference between a homeless person and an executive? But I'm like, but what do they have in common? The thing
Yes.
they have in common is emotional distress.
Right. Right.
In listening to other than, some other things that they may say, but when you listen to what they're talking about, you really can't tell the difference between the story,
Right.
you
Yes.
know? So in being able to observe that and see people in distress. And I'm like, what can be done before they even get to that point,
Right.
you know? And part of that is the habits that we have of our wellness. Yeah, we don't do enough of that. So again, in looking at my parents, I'm not saying I'm looking at my parents, I'm gonna say more so of what they represent, because of what they represent is for the most part what the world is: work, 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 work. It depends on where you're working. You don't have, breaks, or you have breaks, or do work. The job itself can really take a toll on your body. And
Yeah.
so my main goal is really to remind people to take care of yourself. My main goal is, to give you that nudge. It's like, hey, did you do this? I have a signature framework called, Take 5 to Thrive Wellness Boosters, and they pretty much really just focus on, are you breathing? Sometimes you may need to take a few minutes to breathe because of the fact you have so much going on. Are you moving? Take a walk or dance or do something, because movement, is really, really good. Take notice of what's around you. What do you need right now? And if anything, be authentic, be yourself. And all of those things add into that. But that's the main thing, is do the work, and the one thing I want people to really realize, and even when I do counseling session, I say, I know y'all get tired of me saying this, but did you do the homework? Did you do such and such such? And you know how they say in order to become an expert, it takes 10,000 hours?
Hmm.
And it's more so 10,000 times 10,000 reps. And
Right.
so what are we doing as the human beings that we are to make sure that our vessel, our mind, our physical being and our spirit and soul is nurtured? And the thing is, just like, how people lose weight and they stop, we can't stop.
Right.
So it's to continue to do the things. And so that's the main basis when it comes to Self-Care U Academy, is to remind people to do the things so that they can sustain their sanity, thrive under pressure, and supercharge their self-care. Because with the world, we can forget, and then life be life, and that can take us away from those things as well.
Yes. Oh, it's brilliant. I think it's so valuable kind of throughout everything, that there's the self-care. So there's the physical body component, right? And that's certainly something I also had to come to, because I'm in communications.
Hmm.
So a lot of my work product is on a computer. And so I, for a long time, felt like my body was the thing that carried my brain around, and my brain was the valuable part,
Mm.
because that's what did my job and all of that. And I ignored it, or judged it, or was frustrated when it couldn't do the things I wanted it to do, as opposed to where I've come now, like valuing its wisdom, wanting to care for it. Because I can't remember where I heard it, but it was some leadership class, and they were talking about, if you want to lead the billions of cells in your body, care for them, honor them, help them be the best that they can be, and do that first before you, I maybe saw an interview on TV where someone said, your first job is caring for the person that is in the world. Like, because, you have your physical self, but you also have the self that's kind of watching you,
Mhm.
and observing everything that's
Yeah.
going on, and employing that watcher part of you to care for the body and the physical vessel that you have, um, was a journey of learning for me. And because it wasn't, how the systems of the world, like you've talked about, are built.
Mhm.
It's, very quickly, what do you contribute? What do you give? Not what do you necessarily bring?
Yeah.
And so I'm super glad I have kind of followed in the footsteps that you've laid out, because it's changed so much. It's
Oh, yeah.
changed so much of how I spend my time and what I prioritize. And then when you brought in the energy element of it, there's I think there's so many layers of that too. It's from the beginning of going from that push through, like if it's something I have to do, I have to get it done no matter how I feel, to when is my energy good? Well, mid morning's my best time. So, and understanding that about yourself. And then going to the shared network of energy, like you were talking about, where you have yours, but your mom had hers, your dad had his, your brother had his, and understanding how those can all kind of intertwine and kind of glom on, um, and seeing that element. So not just physicality, but kind of like this energetic piece, um, is so profound. And then taking all of that learning like you did and bringing it down into simple, sustainable little practices that you do every day. Because I know, like so many people, they go on a weight loss journey, or they go on a fitness journey or something, or they want to learn a new skill, and they just like intense dive in. And then
Mhm.
in a week and a half, they can't do it anymore. So the more sustainable learning and development is that little bit every day. I love that so much. So as people are attracted, obviously, because I'm sure they can relate to different parts of your story and what you've presented, what kinds of things do your clients come to you with? Are they just like, I don't even know what to do? Or are there kind of specific things that attract them to you? How do you interact with people that come to you for this methodology that you have?
Yeah, pretty much. I would say for the most part, most people, I'm going to kind of divide it up in two parts. One part when it comes to the clinical side, most people end up coming, more so for relationships, either relationship, with their partner or with their children, or a relationship with their parents. And I like to say, I always end up in both arenas, that it's the relationship with ourselves to lead back to that. And so that is in one arena. As for everything else, like in general, a lot, and it just really just has to do with the way that the world is, that a lot of times people don't even realize that they need the study of self. They need to pamper themselves, you know? So I do a lot of education, through, social media and everything, and then getting into, organizations and talking to different, individuals, to say, come on in, so that we can do that. And so it's in different stages, and so the main thing I would say is the education, to use my experience to be able to share that so that people can relate to it, and then to educate people regarding, what's beneficial for them, and also what happens when we ignore it, because of the fact the way that the system is made. And when I say system, it's the world, it's the workplace, it's everything. It would even have you convinced, because I mean, I've done it in the past where I kind of call it sick as a dog and will go into work anyway.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? We've all done it, but to really educate people regarding all of this, like the benefits of this, and then what happens when we don't, because the way that the system is operating, it will really have you convinced to continue to move on, ignore yourself, and then next thing you know, you end up having, a heart attack or strokes, or being legs being amputated, and just all kind of things, just completely. And then even having you think that you have no control over it. And that's not so true. And that's one thing that I really love about, some people call it alternative treatment, but actually it was here first. I don't know how it got called the alternative.
Ah, yeah.
It was here first. It's just, I guess you could say, for those of us who are in business, that just lets you know that, when it comes to the medical field and mental health field, there's really good marketing around that.
Yes. Yes. You're right. Absolutely.
But my main thing is to help people to execute, you know, in implementing self-care, and so that, because especially for entrepreneurs and even for executives, in that, hey, I'm doing this for my family, I'm doing this for people. But the more that you're able to, pretty much what you were saying, to focus on yourself,
Hmm.
then you're able to really be more in line with whatever your calling is, whatever that is for you. You're better able to do that because of the fact that if you sacrifice yourself, sometimes you may sacrifice yourself prematurely. It may not have been your time. Those things you experience, they make this, like the breakup was part of my calling.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, like, for some people, breakups can be very, very, not just heartbreaking, but some people end up thinking about or even have done in losing their life,
Right.
you know?
Yes.
But maybe that wasn't was supposed to happen, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Meaning that we have more of a calling
Hmm.
beyond what we experience.
Yes.
And again, that's the main thing I really want people to really realize is, as entrepreneurs, as executives, people, when it comes to employer well-being, in that,
Right.
use your experience so that you can educate others so they can execute the thing.
Yes.
And that's my main goal, is to reach out into, as many people as possible. That's one of the reasons I'm doing more and more, podcasts. It's like, let's get the message out there, and you can do it. The other thing too that I wanted to point out,
Mhm.
regarding the Reiki, the energy healing, some people may not, be familiar with it. What I like to call it, some it's kind of known as hands-on. It may not be actually hands-on, but one example that always come to mind is like the original Karate Kid,
Yes.
when Daniel, had broke his leg or sprained his leg or something, and Miyagi, rub his hands together and put it over. And that's very similar on what it is.
Okay.
But the main thing I wanted to highlight is that when I got exposed to that, I got exposed to it actually in the continuing education class, conference that I was at. This lady
Mm.
spoke there. And then, again, remember I said, I'm always looking for different ways of how I can help people. And so I did end up reaching out to her, and I went to that training. And that training also has a part in my self-care, journey and everything else too, because in that training, one, I discover my true calling, and let
Yes.
me know, my strengths and things that I've known about me. But it also, I didn't know anything about chakras. I had never heard of the chakras. Like, what is this thing? But
Yeah.
in that training, I'm like, in mental health, we're not completely treating the whole person.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So it
Mhm.
opened my eyes, it expanded my horizon. And so that's why it's important to have, in addition to, if anyone who's in therapy, it's not just the talk therapy, you're a whole person. And yes, they are different modalities, but make sure that there's some type of embodiment practice, somatic practice, because you're a whole person. Because if people are like us, we can intellectualize, we can
Right.
understand,
Mhm.
but it just may not get to us. But I just wanted to bring that out, regarding Reiki, the energy work, but just to let people know there's a different way of healing. Is a
Yes.
part of healing, but it's also a part of sustaining too, you know? And
Absolutely.
so we're all whole. So it's good to be able to look at a variety of things, not just to heal, because I'm beginning to use heal in a different way. Because I think when people think of healing, they're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna ever reach to it." There's different levels to it. I'm gonna put it like that. And some people think once they have tried something or used something, they healed. You heal that aspect of yourself. But it's more about sustaining yourself with whatever word you want to use. And that's really the message that I really want people to come to when it comes to self-care.
Mhm.
Self-care isn't just about bubble baths and chocolate and massages. And even though massage is very therapeutic in a lot of different ways too,
Right.
but it's about maintaining, yourself. It's like, what do you do when you have those, intrusive thoughts that continue to come from your past that,
Mhm.
even though you did work through them, but sometimes they may come up. What did you do with those things? That's
Yeah.
what self-care is. And it's to help you, I kind of call it to get to the next moment so you won't
Yeah.
feel stuck, you know?
Yes. Oh, so much good stuff. Okay. So, first thing, brilliant how when we're talking about seeing, people who are aging before us, and they are the products of the systems that we live in, and how true I think it is that your body's going to get your attention. You can pay attention to it daily and be with it and walk with it, or it will lay you down
Mhm.
and it will be like, instead of, doing the take 5 to thrive every day, you're going to be in a hospital for 90 days. Those are the options. And I think that we have seen that coming, that's a truth. You can't deny that. If we don't pay attention to ourselves and our care, our body will say, okay, well, I'm going to pull the plug now. And we're just going to be in this situation. So, so valuable from a practical standpoint that if the rest of it feels self-indulgent or you feel guilty because I'm supposed to be the giver, especially like, a woman, a caretaker, listen to that part of it and know that if you don't take those steps today, your body's going to call you eventually and you'll have to. So I think that's super helpful for some people who have a little bit of a harder time coming into this, paying attention, no, it's not selfish
Yeah.
to care for
Yeah.
yourself because you mentioned, you're going to have a whole care team. Like you might not want to pay any attention to you now, but 18 people will have to if you don't. So
Mhm.
just go ahead and help them out and don't do that. Um, and then bringing that it's a progressive, I think that's absolutely true because I can admit sometimes I'll be frustrated that I'm facing a certain behavior pattern or certain intrusive thoughts that are kind of, I was like, I've already done this. I've already gotten through this. Um, but as you say, the truth is that there are layers to it and there's progression. And then you're in a new situation that may remind you of something back there that you haven't faced yet. And so you're just getting more and more capable and grounded in yourself over time. You're not ever going to be done with it. And, depending on, I do, this gives me hope sometimes that depending on your belief about what happens after we die, I happen to believe that there's a part of us that's eternal.
Mm.
So I'll really never get it done. Like I really am gonna be plenty of time to learn and evolve and heal and grow. And um, so that's a good way to frame it. It doesn't have to be a completed thing. It's gonna evolve over time. And um, I think acknowledging that um the community piece of what you've built how you learned from people and you went to conferences and you connected and you were curious. And each of those interactions and relationships has pulled you deeper into your purpose. And I love what you said about that, that when you can lift off of you the grind and the for everyone else, not for me, then you can see your purpose. And I think so many people are so hungry to be valuable. There's on one extreme, there's the fame, like I want to be famous.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's ever really about that. It's like you just want to be seen and known and appreciated. Everybody wants that. And part of this work also that you've seen in your clients and in yourself is that when you do begin to take care of yourself holistically, your purpose can come in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, for me, that's an unexpected blessing out of this work. I didn't think about that being part of it. Are there other things that you have gained or have seen in your clients that surprised you through this work? Because the purpose bit is so powerful, but I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would probably say the main thing that I see is that they realize that they do need the rest,
Ah, yeah. Okay.
that they really do need the rest. And it doesn't mean to stop, because sometimes some people are scared to rest because they're like, oh, it's going to stop my momentum and everything. Yeah, not necessarily, but that's the main thing that they notice of to be able to take that step back and to pretty much just say, hey, this is who I am, you know?
Yeah.
And I do want to add one more thing too, because sometimes some people, especially when it comes to the physical part of our body, exercising and eating right, and even doing all of the other things, because it still adds to it, in that sometimes some people are like, well, what's the use because of the fat? Because we've seen people who have, quote unquote, a healthy lifestyle outlook and do a lot of things, and they may still have a stroke, or they may still have a heart attack, or they may still have, um, getting cancer or something. But what I would say is to still do it because of the fact majority of the individual who has more of a mindset and a practice of being well, and whether they get better in the physical form, but mentally and even emotionally, they're okay.
Yeah.
Approach is different. It's usually the family members and the people around them who's usually like, oh my gosh. But the person themselves,
Yeah.
it's your approach to it. And then most of the time, most individuals who already have a wellness mentality, they tend to, some of them recover completely, but their approach to recovery is different.
Uh-huh.
They're less likely to give up, where someone who doesn't have that practice, they really feel like that's done for them. So I just wanted to point that out. It's like the reason you do it so that, put it like this, you can continue to live in different states, of your
Yeah.
evolution,
Yeah.
you know.
Definitely. It made me think of my sister, her first son was delivered through a C-section. And that wasn't the plan. That's just what needed to happen. And she realized that she hadn't strengthened her arms enough, because after a C-section, you really have to pull and use your arms a lot more because the bottom half of your body needs to recover. And so when she got pregnant again with my younger nephew, she really made sure that her arms were strong just in case that happened again. Now, luckily, he was, born perfectly normal according to plan, and that was great. But she learned that, of course, she didn't think about it, but like if she had prepared to be in the best place possible, should this outcome happen, then she would be in a better place after it. And I think that's so wise that if you adopt these wellness approaches on a daily basis, you know, maybe nothing happens and that's awesome. But if something does, you're in a better possible place to adapt, because you're not starting from that way back. You're starting from kind of right within yourself. That's brilliant. That's so smart.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely love that. And again, of how life experiences can open doors for
Mhm.
you. And you're like, let me make sure I'm prepared for this door, even though I don't know what's coming, what I'm going to go through. So, I just love that so much.
Yes. Oh, Sharon, this has been a fantastic conversation. I have so enjoyed you learning from you and being validated by you. Um, this was amazing. So I know that people won't want this to be the last time they hear from you. So how can people connect with you, to the Self Care You Academy, following you on social? Where can they find you?
Yeah, the best place to pretty much find me, they can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm under Sharon D. Brown. And also they can go to my website, Self Care You Academy, as well. And then on social TikTok, out there too, I believe I'm under Sharon D. Brown. My name is so common.
Sure.
But those are, the main, areas that they can find me on, as well as on, YouTube too. And one thing that I would definitely encourage people to do, and if it's okay with you, is to be able to get, a complimentary ebook called, Take 5 to Thrive Wellness Boosters, because it can give you an introduction of that and pretty much of a reminder of why it needs to be done. And then, a few examples to integrate those things in your life, because the more you take 5, especially throughout the day, the better it is on your overall health. I always say people are pretty good in the morning and the evenings for the most part, but we don't really realize what our body, our, brain and everything else go through, because we're just like, oh, it's just part of the job. Even though it may be part of the job, but at the same time, it's wear and tear. But it's up to us to make sure we have, we do the things throughout the day to make sure that, whatever our calling is, or to be with our family, be with our community, that we can truly be there. So that is one way, something that, that they can get as well.
Oh, that's brilliant. Is that on your website?
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
perfect. Excellent. Well, I'll make sure that the link is in the description, so they go right there and get that ebook and start these practices so that they can experience that level of healing and growth and connection that you are inspiring. So wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for your time today. And we hope that you found this conversation helpful. Be sure to follow Sharon and get her free ebook on Take 5 to Thrive. And we will see you next week.